Good evening, America. I am Eric Little. It is the 8th day of October, 2020. There are 26 days left until the end of the general election. I'm near my home in Southern California this evening, and this is the plain truth. So, Nostradamus has nothing on me. Just call me Eric Damas. What did I tell you about the vice presidential debate? I got it almost exactly right. I said she'd win by 20. Turns out I gave him too much credit. She won by 21. There, I've been listening to different newscasts this morning. I tuned into Fox News for a little bit, and they were happy with his debate performance. They stopped short of saying he won it, but I can kind of understand what they're saying because he had an impossible task. It's there's no easy way. There's no good way to defend 212,000 deaths. There's nothing. There's no reference point. There's nobody you can go and talk to. It's not like you can call former President George Bush and say, "Remember that time you lost 212,000 people? What did you say?" There's really no place to go with that. So I guess he did as well as could be expected. But I knew she'd win by 20. The only reason I didn't say she'd win by 30 was because of her gender and because of her race. She had to hold back a little. She couldn't do what she did to William Barr because with I estimated it would be 50 million people watching. Turns out it's going to be a little more than 50 million. She, unfortunately, I know we're still at this age in this country, but she can't come off as the angry black woman. I know it's hard with a man interrupting you every 5 seconds, and every woman in America was like, "Oh, here we go." She had to hold back a little, but she did. She got accomplished what she wanted to get accomplished. It's a little bit like the beginning of a college football season, like a normal one, when one of these really good teams like Clemson or Alabama, Ohio State, or one of these really good teams play, one of these teams like the Citadel or Furman or something, and they're like a 70-point favorite, and they end up losing by only 50, right? And it was, 65 to 10 or something. And you go, "Oh, they lost by 55. Well, they were a 70-point underdog, so, that's like a win for them." Okay, you still lost by 55. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what was going on there last night. I'm not going to get into the Fly. I know everybody wants me to talk about the Fly. The Fly has its own Twitter account now, okay? That was funny. And somebody texted me last night, "He's so full of crap, flies are landed on him." Okay, I know all the Fly jokes. The Fly checked himself into Walter Reed this morning. I know all that. But it was kind of emblematic of the Trump administration. It just seems, remember I said a long time ago on one of my shows that the God only sends a signal when it's Republicans. Remember I talked about the volcano that exploded, and I talked about the statue that came down in the hurricane, but it's never God when it's the Republicans. That Fly was kind of like God saying, this guy, no. But that's a story for another day. So now there doesn't look like there's going to be any more debates because, Joe Biden, understandably from my perspective, doesn't really want to be in a room with a Trump right now. Who would? The man has coronavirus. He's still actively shedding coronavirus, talking about coming into a room in close contact. Biden was like, "No, I'll be happy to do it virtually." And Trump doesn't want to do it virtually because, in his words, no, because then they could cut me off whenever they want. You mean they can't let you, you mean they won't let you interrupt and just ramble on? Yes, that would be a good thing. Joe Biden offered to move it back a week and still have the town hall. But Trump said, he wants another debate after that. And Biden's like, that's 3 days for the election. What would be the point? So it looks like Trump is going to get out of getting his butt kicked for a couple more debates. Which, I've said over and over, I don't really know what difference it makes. Even though Mike Pence got his butt kicked last night, it's not going to really move the needle. I mean, people are where they are. It made me laugh on CNN when they had their group of undecided voters. Get out of here. I can listen to them for one sentence and tell you where they've already decided. There's no such thing as an undecided voter in this election. So, Trump, he's now roid raging. He's on steroids, and he's saying ridiculous things like, this is a blessing from God that I got it. I'm sure the 212,000 families of people who got it and died don't feel like it was a blessing from God, but, he's now just completely off the rails, just saying anything that pops into his head. There's nobody around to tell him, don't do that. And he's completely erratic. Under normal circumstances, if I were erratic, you could check me into a nut house or something and no one will care. But as the President of the United States, your words matter. How you act matters. They had the FBI foiled a plot this morning from some Michigan right-wing militia members. This was a full plot. They had already had a practice run and everything, and they were going to try to kidnap the Democratic governor of Michigan. The FBI foiled that plot. But again, it just goes to show you how you act. You're running around, and instead of calling the Democrats, our friends on the other side of the aisle and things that normal politicians do, he's demonized them. They're horrible people. They're the devil or whatever. Okay, so then some of the supporters are going to be like, well, we need to do something about it. Words matter. This reminds me of a few years back, Dr. Tiller. He was a doctor in Kansas, and he also did abortions. That wasn't the only thing he did. But, Fox News, and they were on TV every single day with Dr. Tiller, and he's a baby killer, and he's murdering babies every day. Somebody ought to do something. Somebody ought to do something. Somebody ought to do something. Oh, guess what? Somebody did. They killed a man in his own church, and then Bill O'Reilly got, well, you can't blame me for the actions of a crazy person. Yes, we can. Why do you think car companies advertise, like during football games? Is everybody that sees that commercial going to go out and buy an Audi? No, but a few will. And it only takes one or two. So you're on TV every day saying somebody to do something, somebody to do something. Well, you only need one. I don't expect every person that watches Fox News to go out and try to find this doctor, but it only takes one. They never seem to grasp that concept, and they never want to take responsibility when somebody does something crazy. But again, none of this matters. You need to go out and vote. By mail, in person, drop box, go early, stand in line. Most states have a way you can track your ballot. So vote early enough where if your ballot is rejected for some reason, there's some ridiculous, it's not in the right envelope, or, the barcode had a scratch in the middle of it, or whatever excuse they make up, you have time to fix it. You have time to either remail it in the proper envelope or go in person and vote that way. Now remember, some states, if they mail you a ballot and you decide to vote in person, they require you to bring your ballot in to make sure that it's not counted twice or whatever. So when you go to vote in person, if you have a ballot that was sent to you by mail, bring it with you and give it back to them so you can vote in person to make sure your vote is counted. They're working every day to try to make sure your vote isn't counted. You have to work equally as hard to make sure it is. And that is the plain truth, as I see it. And I am Eric Little. Good night.